So with the Booker 2021 shortlist fast approaching, I need to make sure that I am ready to give predictions about these books. So I figured today we could do a try a chapter Booker edition for all of the books that I have not yet read. My name is Sarah Freshly and welcome back to Freshly Read Books. Can I just also say that I have this first lines mug, like these are famous first lines from books. So I feel like this is very appropriate for what I'm doing right now. So where am I at in my reading? I've read 7 of the 13 Booker longlisted books, which is about right on schedule, I think, actually. So I'm doing fine as far as that goes. However, Kieran and I are going to be getting together soon to make predictions, and I want to be prepared. I want to have a better idea of a lot of the books that I haven't read yet, because of the books that I've read so far, I don't see a ton of them as having shortlist potential. Spoiler alert. But that being said, it's hard because I haven't read all of them, so who knows? Maybe I'm putting too much stake in the ones that I haven't read yet, but definitely the ones I'm more excited to read are towards the back of the list, and the ones that I see that have more potential are towards the end of our scheduled list. So basically I just want to prep so that I can have better insight as to whether or not I think some of these books could make it onto the short list. And obviously reading just a chapter, and I'm not actually going to do a chapter, I'm going to do I think 20 pages, just because some of the books like China Room have super short chapters and it would really amount to being like 3 or 4 pages. Whereas others, I know The Promise is split into 4 chapters total. So I'm assuming that chapter 1 is pretty long. I don't know that for sure yet. But in order to get kind of a good idea of each of them, I decided on 20 pages. Also because it seems doable to accomplish. That's still like 120 pages that I'm about to just sit down and read across all the books. But I just want to get a good idea of each of the books without trying to commit too much time to doing this. So where I'm at right now as far as reading goes. Like I said, I've read 7 of the books, and the books that I have left: An Island, The Sweetness of Water, The Fortune Men, Bewilderment, The Promise, and China Room. Now, these sticky notes are mostly for me, just to remember. So fortunately, I have digital copies of all of these books thanks to Booker, and I am able to read a little piece of each of them. I also do have China Room and An Island as a physical copy. However, I think that this copy of An Island, I got it before I was sure that I would get the digital copies from Booker, and there was really no other way that I could get the book. There's no audiobook, there's no ebook that I could purchase, so I ended up buying a physical copy that just got here yesterday. And since I think that I'm just going to read the digital version, and since this is kind of a tough book to get your hands on as far as the long list goes, I mean, clearly I had a hard time myself. I'm gonna do a giveaway for this one in the US. I apologize to everyone else, but if you're in the US and you want a copy of An Island, watch out on my Instagram. I'm going to post a picture with this and have in the description that it is for the giveaway, and I'll have something in that to comment to enter into the giveaway, and I will randomize that, pick somebody to send this book to. So with that, I think what I'm going to do is do a random number generator to pick which book I'm going to read from first, just for fun. There we go. Generate 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Bewilderment. Yes. This is the one I'm most excited about. Also, this isn't published yet, so it just feels cool to be able to read. And I really like Richard Powers, his other book, The Overstory. So good. And this one's got sci-fi elements to it, Bewilderment does, so I'm really excited about it. I don't remember anything else about it. So I will get back to you once I've read 20 pages of Bewilderment. So I just read through 20 pages of Bewilderment, actually 19, just because it was a really good stopping point. Very good. Ooh, I'm so excited about this one. I'm trying to even figure out the world that it takes place in, because as I said, this is a science fiction novel. Also, I kind of remember what it's about. It's a dad who, I don't think the name has come up yet, his name, but it's a dad and his son who is 9 years old, but he turns 9 in the first 20 pages. And his son has, it sounds like ADHD based off of how it's talked about, but also that he might be on the spectrum. Although his dad doesn't really like the idea of like these diagnoses and him being labeled as having like a deficit in something. And he also was talking about like how the whole world is really on a spectrum. Like that's what a spectrum is, which I thought was, I like that way of looking at it, because I mean, he's not wrong. But his dad, I believe, based on the synopsis, which hasn't come up in the book yet, but is like, or not really, is looking for life on other planets or something like that. And but he's also working on raising his son. His wife has just passed away, and his son has got like some challenges. He can get, I guess, like pretty angry and aggressive, but the dad doesn't really want him on drugs. And I know from what I remember of the synopsis that there's like a specific type of treatment that he tries, like he ends up trying with his son, but that hasn't come up yet. But basically they're out in the Smokies and kind of camping and enjoying nature, but also they like just real quick head to another planet and back in that first 20 pages just to like look at it. So I'm kind of trying to, because some of the things about like the current world, they talk about Robin the son being in school and physicians he has interacted with. So some of the stuff seems really like set in our world and very familiar to how things are right now. But then there's also the sci-fi element to it, which is, it shows us as being like super advanced as far as technology goes. So I'm very curious to continue reading this one and to learn more about the world. So far it's told, like it's very readable. There's like very short sections, which I don't know if you can call them chapters. They're not numbered or anything, but they're super quick to get through, and they're just like a couple pages long, which is why I was glad I went with a 20-page rule, because otherwise I would have read like 3 pages if it was like the first chapter. And I like the relationship between the father and son. I think it's really sweet, and how much they talk about the wife that's now passed, Robin's mom. And there was one quote that I guess the mom used to say, which I really loved, that was, "Nobody's perfect, but man, we all fall short so beautifully." I thought that was so sweet. Also, there was a quote that the father said about Robin: "My boy was a pocket universe I could never hope to fathom," which is really adorable, because he's like trying to understand more and more of the universe and everything. And then he's saying that like there's a whole universe inside his son. So there's already really great quotes, like really great little nuggets of conversations. And I'm also very interested in the world, and it's told in a very readable way. So I'm excited about this one. This is going to be so hard now, because that's the last book on like our schedule, since it's not out yet. If you want to know our schedule, by the way, it'll be in the description, as it is for all of my review videos. But that being said, I am a little out of order. Since I didn't get my hands on An Island for a while, that one is probably going to be coming out behind some other videos, considering I've already read 2 other books that were supposed to be after An Island, and I clearly haven't read An Island yet since it's a part of this video. So, but for the most part, with the exception of An Island, that's like the order that I'm reading the books in and making reviews on them. So if you want to check that out. But yeah, great start to this. Really enjoying Bewilderment, and it's going to be really hard to wait to read this one, because I am already really into it. Okay, so we are done with Bewilderment. I'm just going to put it over here. And I'm going to go ahead and do another random number generator. It's so hard to get to pick up on camera. There we go. 1. Is that 1? Yeah. An Island. All right, let's go. Just talking about it. And this is probably going to be my next read anyway, so it's good to be able to get into it to know how I feel about it. I've been hearing that like the beginning is a little bit rocky and that it gets better, but we'll see. So just finished 20 pages of An Island by Jennings, and I don't know what to think about this so far. The writing feels very Edgar Allan Poe to me, oddly, which is not something I expected. That being said, it's been a long time since I've read any Edgar Allan Poe, so it might just be like something about the story that's reminding me of, I've read a lot of Poe's stories, so it may be just like there's one that's buried in my subconscious and there's something from this story that's reminding me of that, and it's not like the writing itself. I'm not sure, but it does, like, there's something there that, like, I'm thinking Poe for some reason. The story is so far on an island, as you might have guessed, and there is a lighthouse keeper that lives there in a little cottage next to his lighthouse, and he finds a body that's washed up on the shore, and it seems as though the body's still alive, like it still has a pulse. And I guess he's found bodies in the past that have washed up on the shore, that have been dead. And there's some political thing going on with wherever this is set, which I don't remember. If it says where it's set in the synopsis, I don't remember where it is, or even if it's based on like a real location. But yeah, I'm intrigued, but it's very slow moving. Like, I think also just reading this right after reading those little sections of Bewilderment where like a lot happens and there's like a lot more conversation, whereas this is all, you're like just in the lighthouse keeper's mind, and he seems very like detached, which I'm interested by. Yeah, I don't know. I can't decide how I feel about this one. As a reminder, I'll be doing a giveaway, so if you also want to read this book and then you can tell me your thoughts, you can read this copy of this book if you're in the US. Sorry. Just shipping's expensive. But make sure to follow me on Instagram so you can see when I do the post to give away this copy of An Island. Okay, so that one's done. Let's get up another random number generator and generate. Oh, there we go. 4. China room. I don't know why I took that off. I haven't been doing that. This is the one that I'll actually be reading out of my physical copy of the book, which is nice. And one of the books I was most excited for, obviously, considering I have a physical copy of it. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and read 20 pages of this, let you know what I think. So I just finished the 20 pages of China Room, and man, it gets you right into the meat of the story. So this focuses on 2 perspectives throughout the book, and in the first 20 pages I only see one of those perspectives, so I can't really talk about the other one, but it looks like it's pretty close to the 20-page mark where it switches to his perspective. But anyways, the one I did get to see is Mehar, who is a young bride in rural Punjab in 1929. So she has just gotten married, as has 2 other young women as well. And so the 3 of them got married to 3 brothers and are now living with them and their mother. But none of the young women know which brother is their husband. And this is the first sentence. Mehar is not so obedient a 15-year-old that she won't try to uncover which of the 3 brothers is her husband. So yeah, just right in with that. And 15, oh my gosh. It's a bit tough to read just because the situation, it just seems so awful for like a young 15-year-old girl, and to see her like try to, just in little instances of like bringing tea, trying to get enough of a glimpse at the men to be able to figure out which one is her husband, or just have more information about what makes them different, so that maybe by overhearing things later she might be able to figure it out. But she hasn't seen really much of their faces at all, just because of what she's wearing and everything. They, I guess, all look pretty similar as well. One has like more calloused hands, so she's trying to like figure out if that's her husband. And several nights she has to go to a specific room where her husband comes to her so that they can try to have a baby. or really a son specifically. But it's so dark, she can't see, so she's like trying to be like, are these hands calloused? Like, do I have the brother with calloused hands? And she even asks the brother's mother, who's like the matriarch of the household, and she's doesn't tell her. Like, ugh. Yeah, so it's a bit tough to read just because of that. But I knew that going into it, like that's in the synopsis, that's what this book is about. What I didn't expect and what I really like is that the three young women are like kind of becoming friends through this. They sleep together in what's called the China Room, and they've got like 2 beds between the 3 of them. But they've already, like the way they're interacting and everything, they seem, you know, it's so clear that like they're just young girls. And it's nice to see those moments instead of like just seeing where they have to be like super obedient. But yeah, I'm interested obviously in this book, but I feel like I didn't really learn too much more about it than I knew just reading the synopsis. So unfortunately the 20 pages I don't feel like it helped me out a ton. Writing style wise, it seems pretty simple, like nothing special in the writing style. I wouldn't say that you know, nothing really like stands out to me at this point. I mean, strong first sentence for sure. But yeah, it seems like a very easy to read writing style that doesn't really have much oomph behind it, if that makes sense. But hopefully I'll end up really liking it when I get to read more of it. Okay, so that's China Room done. And going back to my random number generator, between 1 and 3, I got 3, so that would be The Promise, which is very exciting. I feel like everybody is really freaking out about this book. Like everyone's talking about The Promise and how great it is. So I'm trying to like not think about those expectations, because I feel like that's always a mistake to go into a book with really high expectations. But I'm excited to read a little bit of it. I feel like, just based on how everybody's talking about it, I feel like he's got to have like a pretty good and distinct writing style, since people are so excited about it. But like I said, no expectations, no expectations. So just finished the first 20 pages of The Promise. And I don't know. I think it was just, there's so many people. Like, there's a lot of names right away. And so I had a really hard time like understanding where I was in the story and like who was there and of what relation they were to the main character, whose name is either Amor or Amor. I know that the author, Amor Tolls, like his name's pronounced Amor, but I don't know how her name is pronounced. So I'll have to look that up at some point. But I'm gonna say Amor, just because when I see Amor, that's where my brain goes. But anyways, I don't even know how old she is. Right at the end, I think like the last sentence on the 20th page was like something about that her and somebody else being on the brink of like not being children anymore. Like they're still children, but they're really close to not. I know she's in school, but also she was staying in a hostel. But I thought it was alone, but I don't know, the more it went on and like how other people referred to her as child, I wasn't sure. Also, the dialogue isn't in quotations, which is something that I usually dislike in books. So, not dislike, but I just have a really hard time getting used to it. To not have like a clear indication that this is being spoken out loud. But it does feel as though that is purposely built into the style of it, and so I can appreciate when it feels like it's a more cognizant decision to do that. Like, you feel very removed from the story because Amor just found out that her mother has passed away, and I guess she's been sick for like half a year at this point. Or there's been something that has given the indication that she would likely pass away soon for half a year. I'm assuming it's some illness, but we don't get like a ton of information on that. So the story starts with that having just happened, with her mom just having passed away, and she's being picked up by her aunt and taken to wherever her mom was staying while they're taking the body away, but there is a hearse already. So I don't know if it's the funeral, but it can't be the funeral right away. I don't know. It's very confusing start to it, and like maybe I just didn't read it like clearly enough. Maybe it's just because this is the fourth book that I've like started reading, and my brain's like starting to have a harder time, you know, adjusting to a new story, because I've done it a few times already today. Like maybe that's not the best way to do this, but I can definitely tell that the writing is good, and I can tell that me as like the reader, I'm meant to feel like out of it, because Amor feels out of it. Like she feels in denial about her mom passing away, and so she's having like a hard time accepting this. She doesn't want to accept it, and it feels like she's kind of just like drifting along. So as a reader, you feel like you're drifting along, which is very cool, but it also means that I feel like I wasn't able to get like a real hold on the story or what was going on, which makes it harder to kind of, like, I'm assuming that the whole story won't be like this, that the reason why it's written the way it is right now is because you're meant to feel like how Amor feels discovering that her mom has passed away, and what it's like for her to kind of go through these motions and like have these memories. And I'm assuming that as this goes on, like she'll feel more grounded, or maybe like in other parts of the book. I think this is the one that was about 4 funerals across like several generations, or like when the family gets together specifically for these 4 funerals. So this would be the first one. So I'm assuming that like at least in the future parts, we would get like a little bit of a difference, but yeah. So I'm intrigued, but this one was definitely the hardest for me to get into, purely just because I had a really hard time understanding what was going on. And I went back and like reread several pages just to try to get more of an idea. Also, like a weird side note, but 3 of the 4 books that I have read today, in the first 20 pages, has had the word fart in it. And I feel like that's kind of, like, I saw it in Bewilderment, and I was like, that's funny. I feel like I don't often read the word fart, like in a novel. And especially like a book or novel, or like literary fiction in general. And so like it was just enough like for it to kind of like trigger in my brain like, oh, that's weird. And then when I read China Room, I saw it again, and I was like, wasn't one of the other books that I read the first 20 pages of, like, didn't that have the word fart in it as well? But then when I just read the first 20 pages in The Promise, another instance of the word fart being used in literary fiction, and none of them are like an actual fart. They're all like metaphors or similes or things like that. Like in The Promise, which is the only one I can really remember right now, it's something like she could see she could barely like feel the disappointment, or she knew the disappointment was there like a secret fart or something along those lines. But I just found that funny. Anyways, that's The Promise. I just had to mention it because it was just too weird. Okay, so there's just 2 that I have left, which is The Sweetness of Water and The Fortune Men. And I really wish I just had like a coin to flip, because that seems like it would make more sense now, but I don't. So I will go back to random number generator. Okay, there we go. Generate 2. I feel like when I had 4 books, 3 books, and 2 books left, I got like the highest number every time. The Fortune Men, which I am very excited about checking out. I think that this one's been getting pretty positive reviews too so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and read those 20 pages. All right, 20 pages of The Fortune Men. And it's different than I expected, just like initially. I didn't think there was gonna be 2 perspectives. I thought that it was fully gonna be from Mahmoud's perspective, but so far I've gotten very little of his section. And in fact, I kept reading a little bit past what I initially was going to, because his section like just came back around again, and I wanted to get more of a feel. Like 2 or 3 pages at the beginning that were from his perspective, or like about him, And a lot of that was really just like setting the scene, like the area that this existed in. And so I didn't get a real feel for like his story. And then it switches to being about this like small family that is, oh, I forgot everybody's name. Diana, her sister Violet, and then Diana's 2 children, I think. I know Grace for sure. And then a son. I think that's everybody. But you get to see like a little bit of their like family dynamic, and you know a bit about what they've gone through, but I have no idea how they tie into the story of Mahmoud. And Mahmoud has his own family, but it sounds like he's been maybe left by his wife, girlfriend, whatever she was to him, Laura, and that they have 2 kids maybe? Yeah, I don't really know. The writing style wise, nothing that really like jumped out at me. Very descriptive, a lot more descriptive than some of the other ones that I've read today. So I did really feel like I was in it, which is nice, especially for like that introductory section. But I'm curious to read more of it. It didn't really get to like the synopsis part of it, which I didn't expect it to right away. But yeah, I feel like I just barely dipped my toes into this one, and I don't really have like a foothold as to like what it's going to be like. So with that, I am going to be starting the last book, the 20 pages of The Sweetness of Water. I will check in with you and close out the video after that. And with that, I am officially done with all of the 20 pages of books. I just finished The Sweetness of Water, the first 20 pages of that, and it was a very emotional start to a book. Yeah, basically the beginning centers on a man, George, who I think is older. I know that he has a son that's in some military branch, army, I'm assuming, but I'm not sure. And he is looking for this like beast basically on his property that he knows he saw many years ago, but he feels that he like dreams it and then has to go look for it, and he's out really late and gets lost and runs into these 2 men who have just been emancipated. They were slaves on a neighboring property and are now not, and they find him there and have kind of been wandering, it seems, for a couple days, just relishing in being able to be alone, like not rushing to get to the next place or anything. But they end up helping George out and getting him back home because he's too turned around and he's going through things emotionally. And then you get to see a little bit of George's life with his wife as well the following morning. Yeah, I really enjoyed the writing of it. I think because of the synopsis, I know that George and his wife, whose name I can't remember, I think they end up taking in these 2 guys. So I'm excited to see like how that comes together and everything. And I like that the story really starts like right at the beginning. But yeah, I almost like don't even want to talk too much about like the emotional part of it, because there was a big like what moment for me, and I don't want to like take that away from other readers, despite the fact that it's in the first 20 pages. This is the only one where I feel like, I don't know, weird about talking about that. But yeah, that is officially all the books that I have left to read. I have now at least started them. So hopefully I can go into this prediction time with a bit of a clearer idea of these books. Some of them I definitely feel like I got a clear idea of, like Bewilderment. I feel like I get it. Like I don't get the world that it's in or the time period or like what technology is available or anything, but I more understand it as a book and as a way of being written. I feel like Bewilderment and Island, China Room, and The Sweetness of Water, all of those 4, I have a better idea of the stories and the writing styles, whereas with The Promise and The Fortune Men, I feel like I just haven't really fully grasped the feeling that the books bring, you know, like It sounds weird, but I different books and the different writing styles have like different feelings, and I feel like for those I just haven't quite gotten a hold on what they're like. At this point, my next reviews coming out should be on A Passage North and then like Perpetual. And I am going to be reading An Island so that I can get that review out as well. But otherwise, the schedule for like the order that we're going through, we as in Kieran and I, but also like the whole Booker Boy Discord book club group, that's all in the description. And also, if you want to join the Discord and talk to us about your feelings about the books as well, please do join in on the discussion. It's really great. There's like different channels for each book. And so, you know, even if you haven't read all of them, you can just go to the channel that's about the book that you are reading or that you just read or that you maybe are thinking about reading and check that out. And spoilers are like blocked out and everything, so it's not like you'll go there and get spoiled or anything. But otherwise, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.